years, I've had the privilege of knowing Mr. Coppell as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a friend. Our class of 2011 is the last class to have had Mr. Coppell as a teacher since our intermediate school days. There are some of us graduating today who have been through Colonial Day, Class Idol, Classroom Without Walls, IASIS, and even interim with him. As my teacher in the 5th and 7th grades, as well as my cross-country coach during high school, Mr. Coppell has truly shared a unique relationship with our class. We always hear, the best teachers are the ones that make change, and I would be one to know that Mr. Coppell is no exception. In the past week, all of us received our reports from over the years, and I can literally divide my life into its before Mr. Coppell and after Mr. Coppell phases. Even though he's considered me daft for 8 years straight, I owe him for playing a huge role in making me who I am today. His travels to and experiences from 74 different countries clearly reveal the dedication to his craft, to his craft as a geographer. But more than just geography, Mr. Coppell has a sincere passion for each and every one of his students. He has taught us responsibility, organization, self-confidence, and more importantly, he has instilled in us a desire to want to push our limits, both physically and mentally. Mr. Coppell, the ever well-respected English gentleman, has even taught us to become so open-minded that his British insults are taken as compliments in code. How do you thank someone who has taken you from crayons to perfume? It isn't easy, but I'll try. Today, on behalf of the entire class of 2011, it is my great honor to introduce Mr. Ian Coppell as this year's commencement speaker.
Good evening, Superintendent, Chairman, members of the board, distinguished faculty, proud parents, honoured guests, and you, almost alumni. With your suits and your dresses and your shaves and your hairstyles and your cloaky things and your square hats and your pieces of string and your looks of total expectancy. You've outgrown SAS. It's time to move on. Earlier this week, you were school kids in school uniform. Tomorrow, you're on the path to being independent college students, many in a far-off land. Some of you are staying here to learn the skills necessary to defend your country. Many of you think you know where you're heading. But to paraphrase the venerable Donald Rumsfeld, there are a lot of unknowns that you don't know. But there are many people facing you who know what those unknown knowns are. One thing I know what many of you are thinking right now. I know the question that is in the forefront of your minds. The question, what was it like growing up in Liverpool in the 1960s? Thank you for asking. I certainly appreciate the question as it beats the usual, have you met the Queen? But time doesn't permit. Liverpool back then was grey, but only on sunny days. I moved when I was a kid because they knocked down my grandmother's house. But they phoned up first to tell us, we're going to knock your house down. You might want to think about moving. So it wasn't Liverpool, it was a place close to Liverpool that was my home, and the place where I left high school when I was 18. I'm going to make the assumption that most of you were born 18 years ago, 1992, 1993. A few of you were born even before Bill Clinton was elected. And who would have predicted some of the events and changes that have taken place since then? In 1993, the plans for the Rwandan genocide were being laid, which led to 800,000 deaths. The Twin Towers collapsing when you were 8 will seem like a distant, tragic memory. The recent multiple disasters, the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, the Haitian and Japanese earthquakes over the last 2 years still leave many victims homeless. Back in 1993, some of your parents may have had mobile phones. But I suspect very few had an internet connection at home. Yet here we are 18 years later with the internet on our phones. A reminder that you are living in the most technologically advanced era since yesterday. Who would have predicted there'd be an 8th version of the Oregon Trail? That Ryan Giggs, Michael Schumacher and Sachin Tendulkar would still be competing at the very top level? Or that there'd still be a Clinton in the White House administration? Who would have foreseen that Donald Trump would wake up, clean his teeth, iron his hair, and tentatively consider a run for the presidency? Who would have predicted that the PRP would lose a GRC and 6 seats in the general election? Or that George Bush's son would lead the charge into Iraq to finish off the job while Osama bin Laden sneakily hid in a top-secret hiding place well away from the prying eyes of Pakistani security? Who would have predicted that Lee Kuan Yew and Fidel Castro would still be pulling the strings on their respective islands? In your lifetime, the global population has exceeded 6 billion. 7 billion lies on the horizon. 10 billion in your lifetime. What else will we see in your lifetime? Drastic global climate change? The start of colonization of the solar system with a human diaspora living on Mars? What I do know is that there are over 250 of you in this splendid auditorium here in Singapore. That's something I suspect many of your parents didn't anticipate back in 1993. Their 2-year posting to Singapore from Houston when you were in 4th grade became 4, 6, 8 years. And many of you would never have guessed that you'd be calling Singapore your home, but here you are. And if I was sitting down with you today, if I was 18 and graduating from SAS, I'd be between Samantha Conrad and Alex Couch. I'd be sitting with 265 students, 146 of whom have US passports. Some of those, however, weren't born in the USA, so can't run for president. I'd be one of 6 Brits, sitting with 30 Koreans, South Koreans, 26 Singaporeans. I'd be one of 28 nationalities from 6 different continents, including folk from the Maldives, South Africa, Chile, Poland, Norway, Myanmar, Legoland. But sadly and ironically, no Lithuanians. If I was one of you, what would I want myself to talk about? I was given lots of advice. Make sure you turn the podium around, mind the plants, and talk to the students. Make sure you're relevant to the whole audience. Don't talk for more than 7 minutes, 30 minutes, 84 minutes, which is the length of a class. Don't swear, don't sing, don't dance. No in-jokes. Don't mention the Dutch, they're very sensitive. No crude jokes, no smoking, hence my brevity. And those of you with a good ear for accents have probably already mentally noted that I'm not American. I believe I was selected for this to show the school's ongoing support for ethnic minorities. As a result, I was told to speak slowly. Also, my dilemma was, what can I tell you about growing up in an American school and going to an American college? I don't even acknowledge American independence.